Daca recipients will soon be eligible for health care benefits in the U.S., and Turkey says it suspended all trade with Israel amid calls for a ceasefire in Gaza. Good morning, I'm Janine Herbst from NPR News, and here are today's top stories. The Biden administration says Daca recipients who were brought to the U.S. illegally as children will soon be eligible for health care benefits under the Affordable Care Act. NPR's Deepa Shivaram has more.
Starting November 1st, Daca recipients can access health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. The announcement is the final step in a rule that was proposed last year. Here's White House Domestic Policy Advisor Neera Tanden.
This final rule also reflects the president's belief that healthcare is a right, not a privilege, for all Americans, that it should extend to Daca recipients just like the rest of us.
The announcement comes as President Biden has been weighing taking executive actions to address the high number of people attempting to cross the U.S. southern border, which has become a political liability for him with voters. Deepa Shivaram, NPR News.
Turkey says its suspension of all trade with Israel will continue until the Israeli government allows the, quote, uninterrupted and sufficient flow of humanitarian aid to Gaza. NPR's Peter Kenyon reports Turkey's trade ministry also calls for a permanent ceasefire.
Back in April, Turkey announced restrictions on exports to Israel covering 54 product categories. The trade ministry says that is now being expanded to include all imports from and exports to Israel. According to a UN database on international trade, Turkey's exports to Israel in 2022 totaled more than $7 billion, the largest categories reportedly being iron and steel and vehicles. In announcing the suspension, Turkey's trade ministry condemned what it called Israel's refusal to allow adequate humanitarian aid to reach people in the Gaza Strip. In a post to X, formerly Twitter, Israel's foreign minister accused Turkey's president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, of acting like a dictator. Peter Kenyon, NPR News, Istanbul.
Closing arguments wrap up today in the Justice Department's antitrust lawsuit accusing Google of creating an illegal monopoly that's pushed out rivals. Google says it simply has the best search engine on the intranet. NPR's Dara Kerr has more.
Their case hinges on these exclusive agreements that Google made with device makers like Apple and Samsung, and web browser companies like Mozilla, which runs Firefox. Google pays these companies billions of dollars a year to be the default search engine on their devices. And a lot of people don't even realize Google's the default. The government says these deals make it impossible for competitors to get a leg up. And what that means for consumers like you and me is that we're left with few choices. And Google isn't forced to innovate and make a better product because it's already at the top.
NPR's Dara Kerr reporting. You're listening to NPR News from Washington.